Hi, I'm Mario Guerra, former mayor of the great city of Downey. And today I'm here with my co-host, Eric Pierce, the editor of the Downey Patriot. And we're here doing Talking Downey with Mario.
And Eric.
Today we wanted to talk, Eric, we did a couple of political shows talking about the recall and things that are going on in the city of Downey. So we thought today, and we're trying to be non-political here, okay? We have pushed our agenda on the recall only because that's what the residents want. But as far as politically on there, you and I different. We're on different sides of the aisle, but we're close to the center. So we're not radical in each way. So, you know, our political views are very moderate, in my opinion, both of us. So I think, and we wanted to keep politics out of this because we didn't want to make this another rancious, discourse that's going on in our country. But it is important to talk about politics from the gentle way, like who's representing us and information and what they're voting on. And it'll be great for us to someday to go back to having policy issue discussions. You know, I think that'll be great.
That would be nice.
Yeah, instead of what a terrible or a great person you are, like what are his views, or her views and stuff.
So, this is going to be a very interesting year, speaking of politics, because Downey is going to be getting some new representatives, which is very interesting. We're guaranteed to get a new assembly person because of redistricting, and we're also going to get a new congressperson.
Correct.
And then we'll talk a little bit about more on the local level because we do have elections coming up in November and maybe sooner with the recall, depending on how that goes. But let's start with the assembly.
Okay.
Our current assembly person is Cristina Garcia. She is not running for assembly. She's going to be running for Congress, which we'll get to. But Downey now is going to be part of the new 64th Assembly District.
Right. And
we have already a couple of declared candidates. What do you know about it so far?
Well, I do know that there's Blanca Pacheco, the mayor of Downey, that we both know really well on there. She's announced that she's going to be running for that seat. We think that there's Ana Valencia from the vice mayor of the city of Norwalk, which is one of the cities. I know that there's, and I put down Dr. Rob Cancillo. He's with the Norwalk Unified School District. So I know that those are the declared candidates. They all have different strengths. Blanca, for example, she represents the largest city. Downey is 25% of the district, so that's a big plus on there. I think she's well liked and well respected. I think Anna could considerably get the Democratic Party and the Union vote. And, Doctor, he gave himself $150,000.
Right off the bat.
So that gets everybody's attention because unfortunately money is so important on these kind of races because you got to be able to get your message out, you got to hire people, you got to do things. So those are the three that I've seen already declared. In my personal opinion, just being involved with politics, there'll be a few others at least. I think it'll be an interesting race. I don't know if there's a Republican running. It's a primary Democratic seat, but I think the Republican Party is trying to make sure that every seat is at least contested. So I think that they're looking for someone, or people are already talking about it.
Well, what's interesting, because in this new district, it stretches from Bell Gardens east, as far east to La Mirada and La Habra.
And La Habra Heights too. Those are more conservative cities, if you will. But it does include Norwalk, which Norwalk very heavily Democratic voting bloc and so forth. So yeah, it does change. Some of the whole demographics are different.
Definitely, it makes it tough to campaign too, I would imagine, because you have such different cities and different communities where you almost have to change your message in a way depending on where you're campaigning.
Yeah, because the voters of La Mirada have different interests and goals than the voters of Bell. I'm not putting assertions on either one of the two. They're just different. So you do have to represent a broader spectrum. In the city of Downey, and there, we consider ourselves, a difference in certain things, being an independent city, like some of the other cities versus a county fire or sheriff's department. So it will be interesting how that works out.
It will, and obviously I think we're both more familiar with Blanca because, being from Downey and she's our current mayor right now. It's going to be interesting to see how she campaigns and how the race really shapes up. And so there's a primary in June, correct?
Correct.
And so the top two finishers in the primary head off to a November runoff?
Correct. Regardless of party affiliation, our state now has the top two. So the top two in June will face off and move forward. And it could be regardless of party. So I think you're going to see a lot of fundraisers in the next couple of months. You're going to see a lot of different people coming out. But unfortunately, you're looked at as a legitimate candidate if you can raise funds. And it's a skill. When I ran for state senate, you do a lot of fundraising. I was able to raise $1 million altogether, combination, and it's a lot of work. You're asking people to have confidence in you.
Well,
it's hard.
Let me ask you this. So, Dr. Concio from the Norwalk Lomrard School Board gave his campaign a significant amount of, what is that, $150,000?
$150,000, yeah.
So how do you interpret that? Because does that mean he's not going to be fundraising, or is that just like to kick off his campaign? I mean, is it good or bad that he's giving himself money?
I think number one is he's got it to give, so that's a good thing. I don't think that, he lives locally, so he's not, and he's a doctor, he's an Army veteran, or he's a veteran. I'm not sure if he's an Army, to be honest with you. I forgot to double check on that. But I think under any circumstance, it's got to be considered good. He's starting with $150,000 over everybody else, at least going on. And that in itself gets the attention of what's called the third house in Sacramento, the lobbyists and the different power groups. They're going to see, wow, he's got $150,000 to start, while the other ones is going to take him a while to get there. This race, you need between $300,000 and $500,000 for an assembly seat. For a Senate seat, you need between $600,000 and $1 million. When I ran, my opponent had $3 million left over from the past, and at the end of the race, when the Democratic Party put in a couple $1 million in the last week, so it's all about money. And he barely won, and that was Tony Mendoza, and then had to resign in disgrace, a little while later. So
that money that he gave his campaign, is that a loan? Does he get it back?
You know what? It can be. Two different things. There's two ways to do it. You can put a loan and loan it, and then you have to just declare it. All the reporting is all there for transparency. Or he could have donated. If he has a loan and he raises enough money for future things, you can always pay yourself back. And that's most likely what he did. Most politicians do that if they're putting that money. Or if you just gave it to it, then I'll tell you, it sends an even stronger message that you're really all in. You're not worried about repaying yourself.
But why would anybody pay so much money to be in public office? That would be my question. If it's a loan, I understand it, but it would make me question the sanity of giving so much money to be in public office.
Well, because $150,000 is a lot of money to you and I and to most people. But you know what, though? I think you have to have a certain gumption to run for public office that you really feel you can make a difference. You're putting yourself out there. It can be embarrassing. People are going to do all this research on you. They're going to talk about you, good, bad, or indifferent. So you need to have certain skill set and certain confidence that you can do the job and you're willing to put yourself out there. So I never take away from anybody that's willing to do that, because we both know it's hard to run for office, it's hard to declare, and you're making yourself a public figure. So I don't begrudge him for that. I think that you have to have confidence in your ability to make change, and that's one of the reasons why you would do that. So I don't begrudge. Yeah, you. I understand. I want $150,000. That's a
lot of money.
It's a lot of money on there, but. Maybe, again, I loaned my campaign money when I ran, and I never got it back because at the end I used it all the money from the campaign. But you do that because you feel it's important enough to make a difference. And reading his press release, it sounds like that way. That's what he was looking to do.
Interesting. Okay, Congress, for I don't know how many years. We've had Congresswoman Lucia Roybal Allard in office. I'm not sure how you I think I know how you feel about her, but she's a Downey resident. I feel she's always advocated very well for Downey, and I'm gonna miss her. She's always been very accessible, but she's decided to retire, and so she's not gonna be our congressman anymore.
She kind of what happened before to Congressman Steve Horn, that in redistricting in 2010, everything was just kind of pushed away, and you know, and her district was completely you know, taken away, if you will, or squeezed out. This is the first time in the history of California that we actually have one less congressional seat. We actually grew, the state of California grew less than the rest of the country. Some states like Texas got 6 new congressional seats, and it's all over the country. California lost one. So it's a combination of squeezing it out. Congressman Lucille Roybal Allard, I'm proud to call her a friend. She's a classy person. She's always represented us. Her and I disagree on a lot of policy issues, but she's a very, very good person and always had the best interests of our constituents here. It's interesting is that, you know, for her, she, you know, when I was mayor, we would go back to Sacramento. She was on the appropriations committee, and we lobbied for certain things, and we get some transportation things. The beautiful corner of Lakewood and Firestone Boulevard, that was $16 million that she helped us get to make that a safer corner, one of the most traveling streets, not only in the city, but in the region. So she was always very good about making sure that we got money back. So, and everybody always criticized me, oh, Mario, you're against smaller government. Why are you going back there with your hands out? It's like, well, wait a second, because we paid into it. So we want our fair share. And she was good at helping us do that. Again, for local projects. At one period, I believe there was like $30 million over a 4-year period that she helped us. So when you see things throughout a community, great person. The other person that's leaving, that's becoming part of this district, is Congressman Alan Lowenthal. Okay, Congressman Alan Lowenthal was our state senator when we had that whole water shutdown, the wrong error with the county and so forth. And him and I worked very closely together. Again, another liberal Democrat on there. I consider myself a moderate Republican. And Alan Lowenthal is one of the nicest, you know, good, decent people you're ever going to meet. I always made fun of him, and I always told him, the only thing wrong with you, Congressman, is you don't know how to vote, you know, and I made it as a joke. But these are two classy people that I consider friends. Personal things. Congressman came to my birthday party, my 50th birthday party, so forth. So we're going to miss them from that. These are people that when you can work across the aisle and talk about things, and again, go back to policy. So I have complete respect for both of them. I think if we have more people like them, I think that you would have less rancor in the country, if you will.
Absolutely.
So we're going to miss them both. But both those seats are now combined into one.
Right.
And now, hence, we have a new congressman that's going to represent us.
We are, and
who's that going to be?
And looking forward, it looks like it's either going to be one of the two Garcias. Is going to be either Cristina Garcia, our current Assembly person who's running for Congress, or it could also be Robert Garcia, current mayor of Long Beach. And what's your initial takeaway?
Well, you know, when we talked about money earlier, about helping success, it's not the end-all politics, but it sure helps. So Mayor Robert Garcia is going to get a lot of money. He's going to raise a lot of money. He's had a very high-profile name ID. I think during the COVID pandemic, I think Long Beach stood out as a shining light, getting their folks vaccinated, doing all kinds of progressive things that worked out from COVID standpoint. So he's got a great name ID and recognition in the area. And he's also been, I mean, he helped President Biden and Governor Newsom and Vice President Harris and, you know, the school superintendent and all these folks that, beholden's not the right word, but they're already endorsing him coming out. So he's going to have a high profile visibility. He's going to be able to raise a lot of money. And he's coming from Long Beach, the biggest city in the district by far. And I think he's got the endorsement of Congressman Alan Lowenthal too. So that's one. And then you have Cristina Garcia, here locally. Her office is literally right below where we're sitting right now. We're on the corner of Downey Avenue and Firestone Boulevard, right next to Porto's. This is where my office is. So she has a lower profile, has a couple things in her skeleton that came out a couple years ago. I think she got cleared, but she took some time off in the middle of that. And her legislative things have been mostly on women's things regarding, free tampons and so forth. So she's been kind of that one issue, if you will. She's also looking maybe for, her endorsements seem to be from the local cities. The local level and folks of that, council people in some of the cities who represent. So it's going to be an interesting race. I think it's going to be, the people are going to get confused. You got both of them the last name Garcia, so they're going to have to make sure that it's Robert or Christina, and it's kind of interesting. One of the things that she helped pass was when you go to Target, you can't have you have to have gender neutral clothes for kids. They can't be girls' toys or boys' toys, right? So now, at least in this case, you're going to have to know whether it's a woman or the male, because they both have Garcia.
Yeah.
And I'm being facetious and making fun of that. But yes, that's going to be a close one. That one's going to take a lot of money. You're going to see a lot of advertising. And I see Mayor Robert Garcia having the edge up on that because of that.
He needs to be the favorite. And Robert Garcia, he's a political star on the rise. I don't think Congress would be, if he wins, would be his end game. I think he has other things in mind as far as his political ambition, his political future. It's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both very progressive candidates. But either way, it'll be Downey's getting a new congressperson.
Right.
It's going to be either Robert Garcia or Christina Garcia.
Correct. We're getting somebody new, and I think from Downey's standpoint, you build the relationship. My advice to the council, next year's council, is regardless who it is, and I worked well. That's how I got to know Congressman DeSilva. I worked well. Local municipalities. It's illegal in the state of California to run in local government as a partisan seat. So they're all nonpartisan, all 480 some odd cities in the state of California. So you run as a nonpartisan. So you need to work to get along, and you should. So I think no matter who it is, my advice to them is reach out to them early, right after the election, get to know them, make sure that they know who they're representing, our community, because our community is special, and we should brag about it. But here's who we are. We're not the typical city, etc. So I think that will happen.
You mentioned the city council. Let's talk about the city council. 2022, we have a couple of elections. Claudia Frometa is up for re-election, and she actually announced on the Downey Patriot podcast that she is running for re-election. So she will be a candidate, and also Sean Ashton. He's being trimmed out. He's being trimmed out of office. So that is that District 2.
Right.
So guaranteed, there's going to be a new council member in District 2.
Right. I think that, and then you forgot the third leg of that, is what happens in District 3 with the recall of Catherine Alvarez. That could conceivably be on the same ballot. So, we've always done a good job here in our city. We've never had scandal among the council. We haven't had that much division on there. Sure, sometimes you have particularly policy issues that get divided on there, but this has been the most divisive council that we've seen in years. And then some of the gadflies that come along with Councilman Catherine Alvarez too, just make a mockery of the whole city council process, and it's embarrassing. I wouldn't want to take my kids to see a council meeting, even though you have this pride on there because of that. Earlier, a couple months ago, a lot of principals from Downey Unified were being honored, and I remember watching it. And they're there, and then on the front row you have these gadflies, and you have these crazy people with these signs that are just embarrassing. And these teachers, these educators are looking at this, kind of looking around like, what's happened to our city when you have, but it's only a handful. It's a few.
It is, and I think that's important to know. We're a city of 113,000 people, and it's a very minuscule number who like to, scream and make noise,
and make false. You have the noise people. You got the Hermans and some other guy Greenberg, and then you got some of the other idiots, the Rodolfo and Juan John, or whatever, that just make up stuff. They just completely, make up things and say that this is happening where we all know it's not. So it is a waste of time when staff has to look at these things and respond and so forth. But anyways, so we have the third council seat, hopefully in District 3. So Claudia Fermetta, she's done a great job, represented the city with ethics, with passion. She did a good job as mayor. So I don't know who will be running against her, but they're going to have an uphill battle. I'm sure she'll work very hard, but she should be the favorite. District 2 being wide open, District 2 has been different than all the other ones. I'm proud to, I come from District 2, I served for 8 years there, and before me, Meredith Perkins served for 8 years. So I think you're going to have a couple candidates coming up. I think they should, there's not any ones that stand out that have announced or are going to be announcing, but we'll see that. Either way, what I urge the Downey residents to do is to make sure that they vet their own candidates. They make sure that they vet who it is, that it's just not phony stuff. They say that they belong to this group and just, they attended one meeting ever and so forth. So make sure we know who we're voting for. What happened this last time, we didn't do that. And I use that term loosely, our community. And, in my opinion, and this is, I'm part, one of the hosts of this podcast, what happened was, I think we have that different woke culture that happened last time. You had the person was first on the ballot. You have Catherine Alvarez. So she was first on there, has a Hispanic name, has, wanted to get people free rent, get rid of the mortgages. She attacked people at City Hall. She's going to change this and so forth. So some of those things resonate with some people. And I think she got in because she was partly part of those things. So, but nobody bothered to take a look at her out there protesting in front of the council members' houses and what she really had done and her criminal record and so forth. So I think now this was a good wake-up call to our community. It's like to everybody, hey folks, going forward, can we make sure that we take a look seriously? We've done a good job. We've had great council people there, and I was proud of the people I served with before and after me too. So that's going to be the key. The key is, and everybody understands, you just need to count to 3, okay? 3 is the power out of the 5. We've been successful in having good people. We haven't had some of the other issues from other southeast cities because of that. Because reason always works out. Okay, let's talk about it openly.
Right.
You
know what concerns me is, in this political climate that we're in right now, both, nationally and even now locally, is are we going to get fewer qualified candidates? Because you almost have to be a little crazy to run for city council today.
Yeah.
Because why would you? You don't get paid for it. It's a volunteer position, and to put up with all that nonsense is asking for a lot. So I don't know if we're going to get the usual crop of really qualified candidates.
I agree.
I'm curious to see that, and for the sake of the city, I hope that we do. And and the best person wins. I just don't know who's going to run. I don't know.
And Eric, you couldn't be more right on. Because, for example, I have to help talk my daughter out of running for that seat for District 2 on there that originally she's interested in. She's political science major and graduated from LMU and has her heart and soul here in the city of Downey, lives in the district, raising her family in the district, wanted to do that. But with the rancor going on and the craziness, why subject yourself to that? You can do public service or community service another way. So I convinced her not to run for those reasons, and I think you're absolutely right. Who in their right mind would do that? You got to be a pretty strong person. And again, what if impacts you is your family? Until when you saw Catherine Alvarez, in front of these council people's houses, Councilman Alex Saab, he had his 3 little kids inside while she's out there yelling. We put out those videos before. You got, Councilman Rick Rodriguez is in the hospital, and his wife and granddaughter home, and you got Catherine Alvarez with a bullhorn, 11 o'clock at night. So, Councilwoman Fermetta and her family inside. So why would you subject your family to that for public service? You're 100% right. It's going to be interesting who's willing to do that, that has enough confidence in their ability to to put those blinders on and move forward in helping the community with some of these idiots that are doing these
right.
things.
And going back to Blanca, if she's successful in her campaign for assembly, she would need to resign her seat on city council.
Correct.
So that would be another available seat. And who knows who we get on there and how that would play out.
Well, if she wins her seat in this November, there's 2 years left on her term.
Mm-hmm.
So according to our charter, they can't. I think they might be able to leave it. I don't know that they might be able to leave it open, but they cannot appoint somebody because it's too much time.
Right.
So in a special election, it would cost X and so forth. So it depends on the political climate and who gets in November.
Mm-hmm.
But you have for sure you got 2 people in November. One. You got Councilman Mario Trujillo is the only sure thing on the council.
Yeah.
You think that Claudia Fermena will be reelected, so that would be 2. If Blanca moves on, Sean moves on, and Catherine moves on, boy, you're going to change the whole concept of the city council.
Absolutely.
Some say in a good way. Okay.
It depends on how you look at it, but there's also no denying that it affects us all. It would affect City Hall, or the city manager, the department heads, depending, because people want to work for a city council that's stable,
Right.
and that is on the same page and working cohesively. But there's a lot at stake right now.
There is, and and I know because I know that you and Hans are getting involved with the downtown business district improvement. We're gonna have a meeting. We're gonna have a podcast just on that. But those are some exciting things on there. But you're right; it takes important people at City Hall even to work within the downtown business district on there. But that'll be enough for another day.
Yeah.
We're talking about elected officials on it. So, anyways. It's going to be interesting. Redistricting changed the landscape of California this year. I think that what's going to happen in Southern California, there's going to be a lot of different moving chairs and moving pieces from all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think people have seen that. You've had so far 5 Democrats leaving Congress. You have 1 main Republican in California. In California, I think you got Jackie Spear from the Bay Area. I think you got Karen Bass running for LA mayor. Obviously, Congressman Lucille Rodwell Allard, Alan Lowenthal. And I know there was another name in there that I forgot. But then you have a very high profile Congressman Devin Nunes from the Valley, from the Central California. So it is a big change. There's expected changes in all of Congress, that people are talking about the leadership changing. So it's going to be interesting. And then what happens here in the election, I think the pieces all be moving around.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. And I think those are always things that we can continue talking. This is a real preliminary show that we're doing.
It is. We're very early. It's very early in the process, but we're going to stay on top of it.
Absolutely.
And the Downey Patriot is going to be reporting on it, and we'll see how it plays out.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our one of our earlier issues now for January, talking about coming up year. Let us know what you'd like to hear about. We're doing these shorter podcasts. We're doing these 15, 20 minutes, one subject podcasts instead of our earliers going on and what we want. And the dork of the month is always fun. We got to get back to that. But we gladly listen to what you like us to do. Our readers and our viewers and our listeners are talking to us, and so we're doing more things like this, shorter, more on point, more on subject. Please email us. Please text us. My phone number is available to you on text. Our emails are available. Watch us on Spotify, on Apple, on every place that you can listen to podcasts, and of course our YouTube channel. But we look forward to growing this podcast, being informative, being honest with the folks on there. And again, I think between Eric and I, we'll give you the truth, and we'll give you a different perspective both ways. So.
Absolutely. Follow us on Facebook. Leave us a comment, and we do read the comments. So reach out to us.
We do. And if you're that mean person that wrote that thing about me and my girth on there, I deleted you, but no, I'm kidding. I didn't do that. Some people are mean though.
Yeah,
I am overweight, but I love you anyway. Folks, have a good week on there. This is signing off, Talking Downey with Mario
And Eric.